All right. I think we're live streaming, so I guess I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. It's the briefing meeting for the Board of Water Resources. Today, Thursday, the 19th of January. Appreciate everyone being here today. I'm Juliette Tennert, new chair for the Board of Water Resources. It's just an absolute honor to be chairing this board and serving with you all. This is my first time chairing our meetings, and so hopefully everyone will be a little bit gentle with me, but we've got a great briefing agenda and then a great actual meeting agenda for today, so I'm just very excited. I think, first of all, we should all introduce ourselves. So again, Juliette Tennert serving as chair this year, representing Salt Lake and Tooele.
I'm Charles Holmgren. I represent the Bear River Basin.
Kyle Stevens, and I represent the Weber River District.
I'm Wayne Anderson. I represent Utah, Juab, and Wasatch counties.
Blaine Ipson, the Sevier River District.
Randy Crozier, Green River District, Uena, Daggett, and Duchesne counties.
All right, excellent, thank you. And Director Candace Hassenjaeger is going to introduce the staff that are present and online.
Great, thank you. So with us today, we have Shalane DiBernardi, Todd Stonley is online, Marisa Egbert, Stephen Gregerson, Tom Cox, Ben Merritt, Laura Vernon, Grant Doty, Shelby Erickson, Nick Yetter, Candace Scheibel's online. Taking our minutes is Shannon Clow. Thank you, Shannon. And I know Carmen's in the back doing our AV, and I think I saw someone else, but I didn't catch who it was. So I will introduce them in just a little bit. And we do have also a couple of guests. I don't know if you want me to introduce
Yeah, go ahead.
those.
That'd be great. Thank you.
We have Kyle Reap and Madison Hoover from the Office of the Legislative Auditor Generals.
Oh, great. Thanks,
So,
Kyle
legislative
and Madison.
bodies.
Welcome. Welcome. All right. Well, let's just jump in. Before we get into going over the board agenda items that we have today, Candace, I understand that there are some new employees that you're to introduce to us.
Yes. So we have added some great new employees to our team. So let's go ahead and Todd Stonley, do you want to introduce Laura first? And then we'll go to Shelby. Laura, do you want to come up to the microphone?
Sure, I
That
can
was-
introduce Laura. Laura's worked for the Department of Natural Resources, Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands for the past 10 years. And for the last 2 years, she's served as the first ever Great Salt Lake coordinator. Prior to that, she was the division planner working on numerous land management plans and conservation easement projects with Forestry, Fire, and State Lands. Laura comes to us with a Bachelor's of Arts in psychology, like administration, and her education and professional experience focuses on land use planning, public involvement, socioeconomic analyses, project management, and strategic planning. And throughout her career, she has been intrigued by and focused on Great Salt Lake issues. She's got 20 years of experience, including her 10 years at the department. So we're delighted to have Laura on board to help us with our Great Salt Lake planning needs. And yeah, with that, Laura, you can say a few words as well.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me here. I am super excited to have made the shift from Forestry, Fire, and State Lands. I think doing 10 years of land management planning and diving deeper into all the complexities of Great Salt Lake made me realize that water is where it's at, right? Water is life, and water is key, it's essential, and if we're going to solve the problems with Great Salt Lake and just the complexities with changing climate, increased population, the answer lies in water, not necessarily land. So I'm super happy to be learning so much more about water management, and look forward to working with the division. So, thanks.
Thank you, Laura. I think we'd all agree that water is where it's at. So we're glad that you're joining our team, and we'll look forward to working with you. Before you leave, really quick, are there any questions of the board for Laura? All right. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, and then next, Shelby, do you want to bring up Nick first, and then you can go to Candace online?
sorry. We are very excited to have a fully staffed water conservation section at Water Resources. And we have 2 new employees that I'll introduce today. This is Nick Yider, and Nick is coming to us from the Division of Water Rights. He worked there for 4 years, most recently as a program manager of the adjudication section. And Nick will be working primarily on water as part of a general plan, which is State Bill 110 funding, and helping systems come compliant with those requirements of that bill. Nick recently got engaged. He's very outdoorsy, loves to be outside riding his bike and spending time outside. So super excited to have Nick. And then I'll also introduce Candace Shibley. She is online. She's our second hire. She's coming to us from Utah State University Extension. She's worked a lot with the Water Well with Seawell webinar series, the Qualified Water Efficient Landscaper program, and she graduated from South Dakota State University in horticulture, and she also has a master's degree from Utah State University. Candace is also very outdoorsy, loves to be out hitting the powder days and spending time with her family. And Candace will be working as more of a classic water conservation coordinator, a lot with water conservation plans and our rebate programs. So any questions for Candace or Nick?
Any questions? Go ahead.
I'll ask Candace, would you rather be a rabbit or a Aggie?
Oh, that's a hard question. My heart's in South Dakota, so I'm going to have to go with the jackrabbit.
Okay.
We'll forgive you.
Welcome aboard.
Nick,
Thank
Candace,
you.
we're just really thrilled to have you both with us and just part of the team and look forward to working with you. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Well, let's take a look at the agenda. Minutes. Did anyone have any? I know we had the minutes in our packet, and hopefully everyone had a chance to review them for, was it our December meeting? I'm like all keeping for December meetings. Were there any things that we need to note for the staff?
The minutes look good now.
Yeah, okay,
made
good,
my
great.
comments online.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. All right, so I think we'll probably be able to pass those minutes pretty easily then in our meeting. All right, let's just jump into the agenda. So we've got a couple of project reports that we're going to look at. So Troy Broston's going to give the snow report, and then we'll jump into the project reports. Let's see, should we just start with feasibility reports? And let's see what our first, sorry. So Liberty Irrigation. Grant is going to be reporting on that one. And then I don't know if we should, Kyle, do you want to set this up before Grant shares with us?
Well, yes, that is in my area, and so Liberty Irrigation. So I haven't been involved in this one at the thus far, so I'll just let Grant go ahead.
Okay, great. All right, Grant.
So Liberty Irrigation Association.
Oh, throw on that mic. Yeah, there
It's
you go.
on now. Testing. Okay. Liberty Irrigation Association came back in August and received some of the ARPA grant funding, and then decided to pursue a loan as well to cover that remaining cost. So I guess the recommendation is the staff recommends the board authorize 25.5% of the project cost up to $204,000. That's purchased at a 1% interest over 15 years with payments of approximately $14,800.
All right, are there any questions on this one?
So, Grant, Madam Chair, I guess this is just a straightforward loan on a water meter project?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
They already got meter grants.
The grant, yeah.
Yeah.
This is just the loan, right? Okay.
All right, so just repeating what Shalane said in the audience is that they already do have the grant. And so this is the loan portion. Okay, great. Well, this one looks pretty straightforward. I imagine Kyle will just make the motion on that one. Okay. Very good. All right, thank you. Wayne, is there anything you want to set up before Marisa shares with us on that one?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It's pretty
Okay,
straightforward.
great, thank you.
Yeah, and this is another one from the ARPA funding.
Great.
Where it's similar to Liberty, where when they first applied for the ARPA grants, they didn't think they
That's
were going to
right.
do the loan.
Okay.
So we did already do the authorization separately for the loan on Cedar Hills, so this is just committing the funds because they are getting everything prepared to purchase a bond and to get that closed.
Great, okay. Any questions on that one? All right. And Wayne, I imagine you'd be good to make that motion?
Yes.
Excellent. All right, and then the next one is Layton City. Kyle, do you want to share anything before Ben briefs us?
Again, this is just one of the ARPA projects,
Okay.
and this is the loan portion of the project coming forward.
Great, okay.
That's correct. This is one of Jacqueline's projects that were handed off to me.
Okay,
Layton City's putting in 2,380 meters. They received committal on their grant. They received authorization on their bond or their loan. And so they're coming before the board for committal today.
great, okay. Thank you on that, Ben. All right, and then we've got the RM 38, Heber City. Wayne, anything to share on that one before we hear from Tom?
No.
Okay, pretty straightforward.
Yeah, these are all.
Yeah. It's kind of fun to see this just,
Yeah,
you know,
I
happening.
mean, we've already
give
been
away
through,
money.
we've already been through these before,
Yep.
you know, so.
Yep, it's great,
Just a matter of putting them to bed.
perfect.
Yeah, so this is Heber City, and the board committed the 5 million maximum before. And so they'll be coming for the just under $2 million in loan.
Okay,
And so it's the same thing, 1% interest, 15-year repayment. The one thing different about this one is they had a small Water Smart grant that they used to start putting in meters last summer. So that kind of throws the cost sharing off, so it's not the
okay.
70%.
okay,
But because they ran into the maximum of the grant too, that throws the cost sharing off too. However, they did apply for a little bit more grant money in round 3 to kind of bring that in line, but we still need to figure out what we're gonna do with that because we had more applications than money,
Yeah.
so.
okay,
And they may have their city engineer and financial advisor online virtually during the meetings.
okay, great, all right, thank you. Are there any questions on that one?
Just to comment on the heading on the paper, everything else is under committal of funds, except this one just has Board of Water Resources Secondary Meter Report. I don't know if that makes a difference, or if the heading should say committal of funds.
Heber City has committal funds, there we just talked about. It's the next one that we're coming up, the Salem.
Oh, Salem, okay.
Oh, excuse me.
Okay,
Okay.
Excuse me,
Salem's is a grant.
my mistake.
okay, okay. But technically, it's also committal of funds too, so, yeah, that's a good point. So Marisa, do you want to talk to us about that one?
Yeah, so Salem City would have been in round 2. And when we did all of the round 2, they did apply during the round 2. But when they applied and I was able to look over the application, I knew that I have a project with Salem City from 1.5 years ago when they came to us for a loan to put in secondary meters. And there's that part in the House bill for secondary meters where if they installed between March something of 21 and May something of 22, we can reimburse for those. And so knowing that they had that project, I gave them a call. Yes, in fact, what they did is they searched invoices dated between those 2 dates. And so I looked at those invoices, we got the totals, and I added that. They were only gonna ask for, I think, they were only gonna ask for 500 meters. So this is a little bit more. They came to us 1.5 years ago to install 1,900 meters with a loan. 1,400 were installed. Costs went up. So they were coming back. Now the ARPA grant happened, and they said, hey, we've got 500 meters left. We'd like to do the ARPA grant. But then I contacted them. So there are some costs from those 1,400. I don't know, it's not exactly, some were purchased prior to that, but they were installed later. But based on those invoices, we were able to come up with a little bit bigger number for them. I think their request had been 1.9 million. So this is going to be all a secondary meter grant. They're not going to do any loan on this. And then we were able to come up with almost 2.6 million in the grant funds. So that's going to be reimbursing those previous invoices and new invoices as they start coming in for this other 500 meters that are being installed. Sorry, that one's a little bit, it's a little bit funky.
It's helpful to have that explained, and
Yeah.
I guess it makes sense. So I know you've told us over and over again, and it's just not sticking for me. When do they have to have funds spent by?
By the end of 2026.
Okay. And so this is nice because
Yep.
they're already ready to apply for
Yep,
reimbursement.
they have to be under contract by 2024,
Okay.
spent by 2026. So Salem City's been working on this for years. They really have. I remember when I think we gave them like a couple dozen meters back before we knew if they worked or not.
Yeah.
And said, try them out and get us the data so we know what's going on with these.
Cool.
We didn't fund meters back then because they died the next year.
Yeah.
And then, so we didn't know if we'd get paid back.
Yeah.
So anyway, so Salem's been working on this for quite a few years. So this one, though, is that we're going to authorize and commit 64.8% of the project cost, and that's $2.59 million. And that just simply came down to their $4 million cost estimate on that. And they had that Water Smart grant, so that changes the percentage. So what we do, you subtract out the Water Smart grant, and then whatever's left over, you multiply that by 70%. So,
Are there any
Sorry,
there's a
questions?
lot of numbers on this one.
I think Kyle's got a question.
Well, excuse me, my question goes to, the discussion here. Does the division have any idea how many previously funded projects would have been out there that would have fallen into the same category as this one, where they came in for loans and installed meters prior to?
We know of some that have applied to us or have talked to us about it.
Well, and to that point, so there's really only a couple. Most that had full systems complete were done before March of 2021. We did have the one presented to you, Tom's Springdale project, that did most of theirs in 2021. Was a small project, but so was it October or December that we asked for authorization and committal? So, because they had done it completely without board funds anyway. But Springdale did. We also had, you may be aware of, recall Riverton City, who had come to you a couple years ago, 3 years ago, and did about a third of their project, and then said, oh, grant money? Okay, let's wait. And so they did. They paused and then submitted their grant application. So I don't think there are many, simply because secondary meter grant projects we have helped fund, and most of them were done before this 2021 date. But those, like Marisa said, that's part of the reason this didn't come to you in the second round, because she got the application for 500 meters and said, wait, you qualify for more than that. And obviously, we won't double dip. We won't take bond funds and grant funds for the same costs, but now they can not have to borrow quite so much and use the grant funds where it's available.
Okay.
I'm very supportive of this. I think it's great, and just knowing too that Salem was, an early actor in this stuff. But I guess we should just recognize that if we approve, if any of the others, if there's something out there that we don't know about that comes out of the woodwork, kind of to Kyle's point, we're kind of setting precedent. Which is
Yeah, a little
probably
bit. I do
but
think.
small, you think?
The only other one I think that might even fall into this is we funded some meters for Weber Basin Water Conservancy District, but I'm pretty sure it was it was 2020 or before. And they've got enough still to install that you're providing them grant funds anyway. So,
And to that point, oh, sorry, go ahead. Ben.
Another factor there too, though, would be, wouldn't it, if we're out of money,
Yeah, that's,
if somebody comes back, if they
Yeah.
haven't met the get under contract by
Yeah.
2024, and if we don't have any money left,
Yeah.
it's a moot issue.
Yeah.
If somebody does come back.
yeah, that's
Yep.
right.
And
that's right.
again, and this is where it gets tricky, because I've had some phone calls, and I'm sure Candace and Shalane have too, saying, how did I not know about this? I don't know how you didn't know about the requirement to
Yeah.
install meters. You know, we're just trying to give you grant money. So it's very possible there's going to be some, but the bill is there, and they could have read that part that says if you installed, it's very clear between this date and this.
Yeah.
It's clear in the several pages of the bill. But, you know, we do have two that have applied during this third round for that water reimbursement for a water conservation project, because they installed meters before this date. And so that was something, if they installed before the March date, they could apply for up to $2 million for and all it says is a water conservation project. So two have applied for that for this third round, so you'll see that in March. One I feel incredibly comfortable that it qualifies. The other one, there's pieces of the larger project that do not, but there's some pieces of the project that do. So I'm working with them on that. That one also applied, I think it was Mapleton. They also did install some during the time frame. So I actually asked them to apply twice. They're only going to get one application considered, but apply for possible reimbursement for the installation of meters and applied for the conservation project for the meters they installed prior to those dates. But we're only going to consider one or the other. But I did ask them to put in both applications for that. So just to make sure that they didn't get left out.
Okay.
So, but we have not been able to go through in detail on these applications yet. And Shalane we'll be talking about that later.
Great. Any other questions or comments on this one? The first three here are pretty straightforward, in my opinion, right? Loans. I can't remember what we usually do on committal offense. Do we normally
This
have
one
the
could have been
applicants?
under special item.
Yeah, okay. But do
And
we
this-
we probably should hear from the applicants on this one. Does the board want to hear from the applicants on Cedar Hills, Layton, and Heber? I'm not sure if it's.
They all will have attendees, it looks like.
Okay.
Every project looks like there'll be attendees online or in
Okay.
person, mostly online.
Okay.
And Salem City was told they were required,
Okay, all right.
so.
And we typically, if they're here, invite them
Okay,
to say
perfect.
anything.
Yeah,
They may not say anything.
I always
Okay.
like to invite them.
Invite 'em, okay.
If they want to, we should.
Perfect, that's okay. That's
And
what we'll
same
do.
online, we have time today. It's not like in
Yeah.
August where
Yeah,
we're like, thank you, we don't want to hear from you today.
Exactly.
Because we don't have 5 more hours.
Perfect,
So,
okay.
yeah.
So, we'll definitely invite them, and then for sure, we should talk to Salem.
Liberty is also they're required, and as well as this last one, which is a quote-unquote typical project that Ben will be presenting.
Okay. So we'll let Ben maybe come up on that one.
But yes, this Salem City is authorized and commit.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, so Wayne, and you'll do the motion on Salem, is that
Yes, I
good
will.
for you? Okay, excellent. All right, so this next one is Newton. Charles, is this yours?
Yeah, looks
All right.
like it. Looks like I come from the land of procrastination. Whoops.
Maybe you don't.
Yeah,
want that on the
it's
record.
mine, and it looks like I come from the land of procrastination. Only Marisa knows what I'm talking about there. but I'm always asking for forgiveness
It's the best way.
for my people.
So Ben, why don't you share with us what's going on with this one?
Okay, so this is not an ARPA project. So this is Newton Water Users Association up in Cache Valley, right next to the town of Newton. The board has worked with Newton most recently on an ARPA project. They are installing some secondary meters. They also provided some money for HDPE pipeline that Russell was a project manager over several years ago. that they installed. And now they're coming before the board again. They have an asbestos concrete pipeline that is in place right now. It is providing secondary and agricultural water. It is failing, it's crumbling, it's basically open. It's in such poor condition. They are investing approximately $15,000 a year on O&M just to keep that pipeline running. And that is the impetus for this project. They are going to replace the pipeline. They've also included 2 other sections of pipeline that in this project that they are putting into closed dead-end loops, which will provide beneficial operations to their system. They're also going to be installing some isolation valves that allow them to make repairs as needed without having to drain the entire pipeline and depressurize everything. So this is, so total they're putting in about 14,000 feet of pipeline. It's all going to be PVC pipeline. They are expecting to conserve a small amount of water, but not really enough to shake a stick at. It's mostly for O&M reduction. And it's about almost $1.3 million for the total project cost. They do have 2 grants. They have a Water Smart grant for $75,000 and a UDAF water optimization grant for $465,000. So the board's funds will help them to leverage these 2 grants in their favor. They do have 1 water right, but most of their water rights are owned by the Bureau of Reclamation. And that is, I think, everything you need to know.
All right. Thanks, Ben. Questions or comments on this one?
So are there any surprises waiting on this one where they have other loans with us or whatever? Are these?
They do have a current loan with us, with the board.
Right.
That they're paying off. It'll be paid off in about 2040.
Right.
That was the project that Russell was the manager over. That was 5 or so years ago. I don't think Russell's here, but yeah, it was pretty recent.
Are they familiar with these terms and have gone over these terms and they're good with them?
With the board's processes, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With what you're recommending.
With what you're recommending?
Oh, yes. Yes. They have seen the report.
25 years.
They looked over it, yeah.
Okay.
And they're able to do that?
Yeah.
Madam Chair, one of these people is involved with West Cache irrigation as well, and I know they would come at the last minute and ask for special terms, and I'm not hearing anything from them. So,
Okay.
and I guess if Ben wouldn't suspect that will happen.
Yeah, I can double check with them before the meeting, and I can speak to you before the board meeting just to double check and make sure that we're not expecting any special provisions and requests from them.
Yeah. It's probably a good idea just so we know, but I'm not sure if any of us would really have any appetite to consider. Yeah. But just making sure we're not going to get surprised. Yeah.
I had originally suggested that they do 30 years, but we put 25 in the report, I guess, according to the board's guidelines.
Okay.
But simply because if they had been given a 30-year term, that would have, it would have equalized their payment with the O&M reduction they're seeing, or at least it would have been closer. I don't know, just FYI, I guess.
Okay.
With this repayment, the repayment is higher than the reduction in O&M expenses that they're expecting. So this will be, I guess, an increase in their assessment.
Does anyone have any questions or thoughts on that?
Madam Chair, and I will make the motion.
All right, sounds good. Charles will make the motion on that one. Very good. Okay, thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
All right, and then we've got a new application, Davis and Weber Counties Canal Company. Kyle, that's in your area. Anything to set us up on that one? Well, do we need to discuss, we just
No.
note that that's there and, okay, that's
Right.
great. We don't even do we do a motion on that? We don't even do a motion on that, that's right. Okay.
Just information.
All right, great, okay. All right, so the next on the agenda, we have another informational item, the transparent water billing update. Candace, is Josh going to share now on that, or do you just want to give us a little update on what that's going to be?
It's information to the board. I don't know, Josh, do you have anything you want to share right now, or you can just plan on sharing in the board meeting, whichever you prefer. Welcome. And I didn't quite introduce Josh when I was doing the introductions, so Josh Zimmerman.
It's good to
our
see you,
team.
Josh. Oh, put your mic or your green light on the mic there so we can get it for the streaming. Maybe. No, I still don't see it going on.
It's green now, isn't it?
Is it? Okay.
The major correction is on that board report, the amount for Linden City is $81,923.
Okay.
And then I also want to express appreciation for pre-approving this money for us, for the staff to distribute.
Well, there it goes. Okay.
So, sorry, I'll
I just
redo
assumed it was
that.
my
So,
problem.
in the board report, the amount of money for Linden should be replaced with $81,823 for that contract. And then I want to express appreciation for pre-approving these funds for us in September. And we are declaring, or as far as administering these funds, we are letting the providers and other cities know that they're effectively distributed. So that's exciting news.
Yeah, congratulations. Thanks for all your work on this. I mean, obviously we'll have time for questions during the board meeting, but any questions for Josh right now? That's good stuff. Thanks, Josh. Okay, and then we'll go to director's report. Is there anything, Candace, you want to share with us now?
You know, generally, I'm going to talk a little bit about the governor's budget that was released after our our last board meeting. And Joel Williams, is he back? Am I missing him? He's going to give us a little bit more extensive legislative session update in the briefing meeting. So hopefully he's on his way down. But I'll probably make some of the highlights. Talk a little bit about some good news that we had, so I'll let the cat out of the bag. We had applied for a Great Salt Lake Basin Fund through the Bureau of Reclamation's Water Smart Grant. We were noticed on December 22nd that we were awarded that.
That's great.
So exciting. So that is an additional effort. That's one of the reasons why we got Laura Vernon, is to help us be the project manager for that effort. So we're trying to merge these two efforts from the legislature this last year, where they in HB 429 they appropriated $5 million and instructed us to do integrated water assessment for Great Salt Lake. So we're kind of leveraging these state funds with the federal funds into this new Great Salt Lake Basin Integrated Plan effort. I'll give you a quick water banking update since you guys haven't had one for a little while. And then, yeah, I think that's generally it. Talk a little bit about SCPP, the System Conservation Pilot Project that's going on through the Upper Colorado River Commission. But those are some of the general highlights I'll cover.
Okay, that's great. Any questions for Candace on these things? Great. All right. My notes say that we should open up the floor for any other items that we need to discuss or questions that we have just generally. It's like a pretty easy meeting. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but pretty straightforward.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
Just a couple things that have been going on in my area. The Watersheds Council has had a meeting at Bear River Canal Company a couple of weeks ago, trying to find candidates to fill the positions on the Watershed Council in the Bear River Basin. And then on February 6th, the state engineer has announced that she's having a special meeting at Brigham City to deal with water right applications in Box Elder County that everybody up in my area is very nervous about. But anyway, we're all going to attend the meeting and see what the state engineer has what surprises for us, so.
Is that special meeting for the Bear River water users or any water user, or what's the invitation? Who does it go out to? Like Bear River
I have
Canal
an
Company?
invitation in my bag here. I'll have to look at
okay.
it for
I
sure,
was just curious.
but I received a mailing on it, and the Water Conservancy District was a little disappointed. They didn't receive a invitation, then it showed up finally, but, so things calmed down there. But anyway, at least our Conservancy District is very concerned about what policies are going to come down and whether we're done with fresh water or where we are in the Box Elder County.
It's good to know about. Anything else from the board? All right. I failed to ask someone to make a motion on the minutes. Blaine, do you want to do that?
We do that in the main meeting.
Yeah, but do you want to do the, yeah. In the spirit of efficiently getting through the meeting quickly. Because I'm worried we won't approve. If not, thank you. Okay. All right, so I think we're good for the briefing then. We'll reconvene. Oh, no.
Go back to the briefing minutes.
Oh,
Or the agenda.
okay, let's go back to the agenda. What do we have?
So we have some information to the
Oh,
board.
you have information to the board, which I totally jumped right over. All
You're
right, yeah,
good.
go for it.
Great.
Thanks, Blaine.
So first up, we have Shalane going to give us the status of funds report out.
Great. Actually, how could I skip this? Like, one of the most important things that we do. Yeah, I know.
Well,
I
there's
really
not a
like-
lot of change, little bit, but not a lot. I did do as requested and started adding the contracted and bonded dates, so you can see what's
Thanks, Shalane.
happened
Yeah.
since the last meeting. So you can see there's been no change to the revolving fund. We do have Newton that's being presented to you today will come from the revolving fund. So if you authorize and commit as staff recommends, then that's another $600,000 that will soon be getting out the door. And back to that question about whether they will surprise us, we hope not. I think because it is revolving funds with 0%, hopefully they'll be satisfied with our recommendation. No change to city water loans. The Conservation and Development Fund, we did have 2 more bonds closed. You can see actually on the very same day, about a week after your last board meeting, on these secondary meter projects. And committal of funds coming today are on the ARPA projects, the loan portion of those. So you can see those highlighted in the C&D fund as well, for Cedar Hills, Heber, and Layton. So getting a little bit more money out the door. And I was thinking, well, if everything that's currently authorized and committed moves forward, you don't have a ton of money sitting in the C&D fund, but you've got a new application from Davis and Weber County's Canal Company. I think they will always be here working to help spend your money. So, Kyle, we appreciate them. No change in the secondary meter grant, the small system secondary meter grants. And then moving to the ARPA funds, you can see we've contracted another $8 million worth of grants. And so we're moving right along. We're getting those ahead of that 2024 deadline. And so funds are looking okay. We don't have a lot of money sitting around left to use. If there are questions, I will speak more to the ARPA funds and the third round of secondary meter grants. Are there any other questions about the status of funds right now?
I know we've talked about this before, and I can't remember kind of what we decided, because I know we started, I appreciate that you've got the future funding needs, you're moving stuff over there. Did we set like a threshold for moving, like amount of time before we pull them off
Drop
of
'em?
authorized? Because there's still a couple, we still have one from 08
Right.
and 12.
Well, and technically, these old ones,
Yeah.
if they decided to pursue their project, I mean, they keep telling us they're going to.
Yeah.
And if they come back to you, we'll require reauthorization at that point. Their
Okay.
authorization is technically no longer valid. So
Okay.
we would require reauthorization, but the ones that are still there, we've spoken to, and they've said, no, we still think we're going to do this. We are also, we've asked staff that some of these that have been sitting around really check, and if they're not going anywhere, let's get them withdrawn. But that's kind of taking a back seat while we're drowning in secondary
Totally.
meter grants.
Totally. No, that
So-
makes sense. I just wonder for just maybe just to throw it out there for consistency's sake, if we've got stuff that, I mean, we have that one from 2008. I'm just for when we're kind of looking at funds
Yeah.
available, so we have like realistic
Absolute-
numbers. I wonder if we set some threshold, even if they say we're going to come for it, but if we just move those
Just move them to the
onto-
future funding needs.
Yeah.
Until
Just so we
they're
have a re-
officially withdrawn.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, and
We
I
have-
don't know, what would the threshold be? Would it be like, would it be 5 years, 10 years? And you can,
What would you like it to
well,
be?
I'm not sure what, I mean, 10 years, I would think. What do you all think? I'm just saying, it's almost in the spirit of just having, if I'm like like fiscal analyst or whatever,
Right.
looking at this number to kind of understand what, just so there's some, a little bit of consistency there and what the number actually is.
Certainly, and I'm open.
Yeah.
I'm open to whatever you all feel is appropriate. I think 10 years is more than generous.
Yeah.
To leave them on the currently authorized. So if it's beyond that, I am happy to move them to possible future funding needs, if you all agree that that's appropriate.
Does that seem okay? I mean, if it's okay with the board, maybe we can just suggest we can go with 10 years for now, and then we can, at least so we just know that there's a specific number.
Yes.
And then, you can, if it's less than 10 years and you're working with them and it's not,
Yeah.
there might be reasons to move it over.
Right,
But
right. And honestly, there are some of them on here that are probably truly just need to be withdrawn.
Yeah.
Because they've done something else or made other plans.
Yeah.
And just, honestly, probably some of them have forgotten about it, this being
Yeah.
out there. So,
Sure.
yeah, we'll just ask staff to pursue those, highlight the ones that are sitting there.
Madam Chair and Shalane, you go out 10 years and the people who are on the city councils or on the board of directors are
Right.
died
Yeah.
probably.
it's totally different. Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So 10 years, I'm great with. If you
Right.
all agree, if you think it should be less than that, I'm okay with that too.
Okay. We start with 10 maybe, and then.
Okay.
Or Kyle, do you?
I think that's reasonable.
Okay.
Okay. Then I have to
Timeframe.
remember that it's 2023, right?
Yes, yeah, there you go too. Gosh, we were all kind of noting the 1983 one on the, I mean, again, additional future funding needs, I think it's actually completely appropriate to have stuff there just so we have a general idea of what's out there, but 1983
Maybe, because
feels.
really probably anyone involved with that application is
I was
I
going to
won't
say
let you
that.
know what I was doing in
probably no longer with
1983.
any of the
that
entities,
gets to
including
Charles.
ours.
Yeah, that gets to Charles' comments about when that was proposed in 1983, I would assume that I would bet that there is no one still around or involved with that project when it was
Yeah.
proposed in 83.
It's probably a
'Cause
good
we're looking-
bet.
We're
And
looking
if
at
it's-
40 years.
Yeah.
And if it's a dam, there's
Yeah.
probably no way it's going to be built for $35 million either.
Oh, good point. Yeah, good point. So, and again, I mean, on that list, it's just kind of interesting and, I mean, we understand, but, it takes time to go through those, so that's fine. But on the other list, I think pulling them off will be helpful.
Okay.
Madam
Yeah,
Chair,
yeah.
I'm just curious from the board's perspective, do you want us to contact folks with over 10 years and say, either we need you to pursue this or we're going to withdraw it? Or do you just want it moved to another list? Like, I guess that's the
Good
clarification
question.
I want from the board.
I mean, I would just speak for myself. I think the main thing is just move to the other list. Like, my thing is just like, what's the realistic number? And so I think moving to the other list is fine. I think at some point, probably the work does need to be done to contact. I don't know
Well,
what your preferences are.
my comment on it would
Yeah.
be, if there hasn't been any contact within,
Just make an
for 10
assumption.
years, then there probably ought to be,
Yeah.
some contact with them to find out if in
Yeah.
fact it's something to move forward or,
Yeah.
or to just withdraw it.
Yeah.
Well, given that amount of time too, the numbers aren't relevant anymore.
Yes.
I mean,
Exactly.
they don't mean anything, and so they either need to do it or don't.
Yeah. I agree.
Right,
I
and-
I think even if we do contact them,
Yeah.
move it to the other
Either way,
list.
exactly.
Because
Both.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that makes sense. And I will say there are some you can note on here.
Yeah.
Not as old as the 83, but I'm sure looking at Farron Canal and Reservoir Company, even without speaking to them, I'm pretty sure they probably had every intention of pursuing this project until they realized they had to upgrade a high
Yeah.
hazard dam that
It's just
costs millions and
prioritization.
millions.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. That makes sense.
But again, that one's just barely 10.
Marisa,
5 months ago.
come to that. Yeah. That's good.
So I can get rid of 1.5 million unofficially. Danieltown, I found out 4 or 5 months ago that they're not gonna, that it's a whole different group of people and a whole new project, if a project at all.
Oh, okay.
I just haven't had a chance to, yeah.
Had a
It's at the
couple other
bottom of the
things going on.
list, so.
Couple of other
Well,
things
and
going
it's
on.
already sitting on that future, but
Shalane,
that's-
you had mentioned like these will have to come back for reauthorization anyway, even if they were
Sure.
viable. What's the timing on that? Like how?
And I can't remember
Okay.
exactly. It's written in the board guidelines that I think it's something like a year and a half or 2
I think it's
years
2 years.
Okay,
that
that's what I
authorization is
recall.
valid for.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
So, like I said, 10 years is more than generous.
Sure.
We can move them over to that list and then decide if they should be withdrawn altogether.
That's great.
So, if no other questions, I'll move on to the third round of secondary applications. I was hoping to actually get a summary in the status of funds as additional future needs, but I'll tell you, we got 29 applications in. And since the date was January 6th, of course, a lot of them came in very late on January 6th. So we have not had a chance to look over and even review them to make sure they're all eligible for this funding. As Marisa said, one applicant submitted 2 different applications, one potentially to be reimbursed for stuff they already did, or, oh, maybe we have a project that falls in that timeline that we could get payment for. So we haven't had a chance to review them for eligibility, and we haven't had a chance to sit down and go through priorities, because they totaled over $90 million,
Yeah.
this third round of applications. It does include applicants who have already received funding that need additional to complete their projects. So we are going to have to sit down and look through the priorities that are detailed in the law, and grade them. So Marisa and Joel and I have a meeting scheduled for next Monday to start this process and hopefully get them assigned to staff. But we do plan to present them to you at the March meeting in St. George. So at that time, we'll, I'm sure, spend the rest of this ARPA money. So, any questions on that?
Any questions?
Not necessarily to the ARPA funding, but what is the prospects of additional monies being
Good question, yeah.
made available, through the legislative process?
Yeah, so we did request a building block through the executive process through the governor's office for about $122 million, if I'm remembering correctly. The presentation went really quickly and all of those things because they're very familiar with secondary metering and the grants and the appropriation they did previously. That being said, it was not prioritized in the governor's budget, so we can't really continue to ask for it. We asked through the governor's office. We can answer questions if there's legislators. The sentiment I got from a number of legislators is that they are looking for other things to fund right now. They feel like they funded a lot towards secondary metering. That being said, a couple of you on the board, as well as myself, received a number of emails concerned about the 73, and I kept kind of pushing them back to the code 73-1037 34 because it's law now. It's not a bill. And so I kind of kept pushing them back to that. It is now law. And so this is what we're following. There are still a number of entities that I have a lot of concerns regarding the requirements in 73-1034. And so we are going to talk to them as we can, but really pushing them toward the legislature that if there are any questions that they want, any laws they want changed, that's the process in which to do it, that we can't make those decisions. Shalane and I also went up and met with some folks up in Cache Valley, from Cache Valley about that same issue, and a couple of representative and a senator. And it really seemed like that meeting ended up being more not geared toward us and our fund and your funding, but it was geared toward the secondary water suppliers talking to their representatives. But we were there to hear and listen and heard their concerns, but really they didn't give us a lot of latitude, or the board a lot of latitude within that law to make a lot of exemptions or make different decisions than what they put in there, so.
Yeah, Candace pointed out to them when someone made a statement, she said, sorry, you wrote the law too well, and we just have to follow it.
Yeah.
They didn't give us a lot of.
Is the tenor of concern around just like capacity and resource to get these things done, or is it just generally a concern about metering, or?
The one I hear a lot is really about that it's kind of an unfunded mandate. Even though there's a significant grant associated with it, it's still, for a lot of these small companies, is a lot of money. The other element that I hear a lot is there are lots of small secondary systems that don't have storage, and so it's not like they can,
makes sense,
they're getting their water cut off in probably July anyways, or maybe August, but they're, don't even have a full season's worth of water, so they're like, why would we use less to have this big burden financially and then not be able to use the water that we're allowed to, even though we don't have storage and get cut off early. So, and they have some very fair points, and we've passed those on as we've discussed it with legislators, that there are a lot of people who have concerns about it, particularly those without storage.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, that's the big concern we've heard, is that this isn't going to help us conserve, because we can only use what's available anyway, and it's not enough. So, so that's the argument we've heard from several smaller entities, including some towns who have even made their arguments to legislative committees, trying to state that, if we had storage and this would actually do something for us, but it doesn't really.
No.
And I would just add one other thing, Madam Chair. One of the other things that we've heard is that there is a legislative bill file open for secondary metering changes. But the question is, what will that be? What will that look like? Will it even go through? There's a lot of questions there.
Okay.
So
All right.
there's a bill file open though.
Who's opened the bill file?
Senator Hinkins.
Okay.
I was asking kind of the question around the concern, my hope is that, because I know that there's a decent amount of one-time funds, and my hope would just be that some of this kind of challenge that we're talking about doesn't impact, it would be good to invest more funds in this endeavor, so.
And I would
helpful
like
to
to
understand,
make just
yeah.
one more note. We discussed it a little bit more at the meeting in December, that we do still have some of this small system secondary meter grant funds.
Okay,
It's not a
great.
lot, but almost 2.8 million.
Yeah, that's something.
That we'll use
Okay.
towards this third round. So
Okay.
while we're short of the ARPA funds, we'll use this small system secondary grants where we can to help augment that. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, any more questions or comments for Shalane? Thank you.
Thanks, Shalane. Just a couple more items. Just to note that we did have a couple of people I wanted to highlight that came in. Joel Williams, and he's going to give our legislative update. Matt Morrigan is the other AV person in the back, so thanks, Matt. And then Marty Bushman is also online as well from the Attorney General's office.
All
So,
right.
Joel?
Good to be with you. Wayne, I thought you were going to be in St. George. Change of plans?
I was planning on being in St. George, but I figured maybe I better be here today.
Well, I think we
We're so
appreciate
glad
having you.
you're with us. Yeah, we
with
are
the-
glad.
having a quorum while we're in the middle of some changes. We appreciate that. Give you a little update here on how some of the bills that we're aware of for the 2023 session. The first, I'll just highlight a few of them. House Bill 34, Boards and Commissions Amendments. I'm gonna do some follow-up on this one and find out, but it's sounding like they are wanting a report every 5 years from every board. And that would go to the boards and commissions folks, but ultimately go to the Natural Resources Committee that oversees all the boards in this realm and to determine if there's any boards that need to be eliminated. And I don't think ours is at any risk, but we will find out what information they're looking for and what we need to do to comply with that. The next one would be you'll notice House Bill 101 and House Bill 172, both dealing with food sales tax. We're tracking those because some of our revenue depends on sales tax coming in, and so if those pass, it could affect us, and we'll be tracking just to see what happens there. House Bill 150, emergency water shortages. I know Randy Crozier and I are pretty familiar with that because we were in the weekly planning meetings that they held for a long time about this one. There's lots of discussion. Essentially, if the governor declares a water shortage emergency, what happens with water rights? And so this bill would address, say that there is a municipality that's facing a shortage and they need to get some additional water, that this could lay out a process where they might identify who a potential water source, how that source would be compensated. Say it was an irrigator, that there would be a means for them to be compensated for that temporary usage of water. But before this, there was not really a mechanism in place to address with that, and they felt like it actually could put irrigators at risk of not having a process in place. So this bill would hopefully fix some of the things that happened in the parent bill last year. House Bill 188, golf-related water modifications, would simply require golf courses to report their water use and their water sources on an annual basis, and also send that information to us, and we would have to post that on our website. So we did submit a minor fiscal note for that, just for our staff time to update, create and update a website for that information. House Bill 207, compact commission amendments. We have discussed this one previously, and it is removing some of the board's ability to select the chair of the Bear River Compact Commission. It would appoint the state engineer in that position rather than having the Board of Water Resources select that position, as has been done historically. And we've appreciated Charles' attendance and comments at many of these meetings at both at the Capitol and at the Utah Water Task Force here in this room. Jumping down to the Senate bills, Senate Bill 76 is titled Water Amendments. Would provide some funding for water resources, $500,000 of one-time funds for some grants that we could work with cities and municipalities to help them plan for water as part of their future growth. It also would provide a staff member for water resources as well as drinking water to help with that coordination effort. We have recognized how vital that is going to be, that water and land use planning go hand in hand. And so that's an important bill that will actually be heard in committee this afternoon at the Senate Natural Resources Standing Committee. And so I'll be up there this afternoon, probably be closer to 5 o'clock before that one makes it up on the agenda, but we'll be there. Flipping over to the back side is some of the other bills that are probably getting numbers soon. Some of them may even as we speak, and I'll need to update that as they get numbered. But as of my tracking list right now, we just have them listed as unnumbered. The first one, per capita consumptive use. This one would change a little bit the way well, not the way we do it, but we would do the same way of gathering water use information and reporting that. But this would allow water districts to report a consumptive use number for their areas that they serve, the large water conservancy districts. And there's some of the reasoning behind that was to provide a number that might be more comparable to other numbers that are thrown around. And you might see in the media, we often, water here in Utah are accused of using more water than others. But some of that is the way that we report water use, that we report a total water use based on how much was delivered. And then other areas here in the West report more of a consumptive use number, saying this is how much water was actually consumptively used, not including water that may have gone back to the community through the sewage collection system or return flows. And so this would allow them to report a consumptive use type number that might be more comparable to some of the other Western numbers that are used. So that'll be an interesting one to follow. Representative Benyon, I think we have the same bill listed twice in here. The one is called Student Water Managers Program. I believe the current title is now the last one, School Energy and Water Reductions. She's proposing $9.9 million in grants that would go through the Board of Education for schools, and schools could apply for grant money to help reduce their energy and water usage at the schools. And so we met with her a few times to discuss the water impact there, that there often are ways to save water at school. Sometimes it might be as simple as changing to a smart timer on their irrigation system so that they're not watering when they don't need to, and they could save 30-40% water, just something as simple as that. But other areas it might be removing grass where it's in non-functional areas and things like that. But we'll be interested to follow that one of the potential water savings. Utah Waterways from Speaker Wilson is one that we heard a little bit about at the Great Salt Lake Summit that he held earlier, that they want to start up this public-private partnership. They've got some big donors that it'd be similar to what's the air program called?
UCare?
UCare, where they're trying to do a air quality initiative with private-public partnership funding. This would be a similar one for water. And he proposed calling it Utah Waterways. There's a lot of information we don't know yet about it, but that'll be one that we'll be following because it could impact some of the things that we are doing with our Slow the Flow campaign and some of our education outreach. Two others I'll mention with, and they're very similar, and they're hopefully working together. Representative Doug Owens and Senator Scott Sandel both on landscape, water efficient landscape type bills. Senator Sandels proposes adding some additional, Owens would add some additional funding. And then Senator Sandels would say that we could partner with districts more closely, and whereas the way that the bill is currently written, all of the funding has to kind of come through our office of issuing each grant to a homeowner that's converting their artificial or their landscape to a water-wise landscape, this would allow us to partner with districts and give them grant funding that they could then go and work with people in their areas, because frankly, we don't have the staff to do the whole state. And so we're going to need that partnership. And so these bills would hopefully help us to do this turf rebate program in a more functional way. Any questions about the bills that we're following so far? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Joel.
Thanks, Joel.
Just for information for the board, as we talked about last board meeting, we had a couple of board members who finished their terms, and Jim Lemon and Norm Johnson. So we're working on getting those replaced. We've had some applications in their area and should have those go through the process and go through the governor's office, but hopefully by the end of the month. And then we did just get word from Wayne that he finished his first term and wants to be done, resign. So we're working as well to get a new board member in that area, but really grateful for Wayne and all of his service. So thanks, Wayne. So hoping to have those board members selected by the end of the month for all three of those areas. For Lake Powell Pipeline update, the states in the Colorado River Basin are continuing to focus on all the issues regarding Colorado River, the low hydrology. Right now, there's a notice of intent from the Bureau of Reclamation to do a supplemental EIS. So they're currently in that process of developing alternatives. They're doing a no action alternative as well as the federal alternative, and currently the states, the 7 basin states, are trying to see if they can get together to come up with a basin states alternative. They have until January 31st to get a basin states alternative, so there's a lot of people working really hard to do that. And then also the post-2026 guidelines, so that continues to use all of the energy that could be used in other ways, like on the Lake Powell pipeline. And so right now, Washington County Water Conservancy District is working with their local communities to emphasize water conservation, and as well as developing a pretty significant reuse project in their area. I know that they applied for a Bureau of Reclamation Water Smart grant to kind of start that process of the design and development of a water reuse project in that area. A wider spread. They already have a reuse facility that's used for like secondary irrigation, but to do more of a comprehensive, widespread reuse project for that area. So that's just an update. And then a couple of other items. Wanted to check in with the board of how many of you are interested in attending Utah Water Users. Our next board meeting is March 22nd, and we'll be in St. George, and would be happy to get you guys registered for the Utah Water Users Workshop as well. Kyle, you want to go?
I registered.
Oh, okay, great. And Randy? Okay, sounds good. Charles?
I'm registered with Bear River Canal Company this year.
So looks like we need to get Kyle and Randy registered.
I'll get back with you. I've got to look at the dates a little bit more closely, and I'd love to attend.
Great.
Usually, what is it? Dinner Monday night, and then.
Yeah, we typically are invited by Washington County Water Conservancy District to their district dinner, and then the water conference goes Tuesday all day, Wednesday morning, and then we have the board meeting Wednesday afternoon.
Okay, great.
Okay, great. And then wanted to check in about the board tour. We normally have, and I think this time of year we're talking about August in the Bear River area. We got a question mark around that, so ask him, Charles.
Look at it there.
There's no water up there. Seems like
lots of water.
It seems like there's a lot of snow and water.
We can go wade in Bear Lake or something.
That sounds fun.
I mean, it's great to me.
I don't know how many projects there are up there recently.
I think there's a few secondary ones.
Yeah, well, and Bear River Canal Company might have some automation stuff to show.
Yeah.
That could be interesting, yeah.
But,
Charles, are you willing to work with our staff to
Oh, yeah.
plan a tour?
yeah.
Okay. And do we know who on our staff will help lead that yet? Not yet? Okay, we will have someone reach out to you once they're assigned, Charles.
Okay, and I'll look for input from some of the local folks up in the 3 counties that I represent.
Where do you think, I mean, obviously you'll go through and kind of figure out, and this might determine this, but kind of home base for that tour would be?
Yeah, it's hard. When we did this 8 years ago, Brigham City was home base, and we went and looked at some proposed storage projects and looked at some projects in Cache Valley. We didn't go up into Rich County at all.
Okay.
And I don't know if there's more to look at in Cache County, and we should locate in Logan, or if we should try to get at Bear Lake. Yeah.
I mean, the water's warm then.
Yeah, yeah. I do know after Labor Day, they roll up the sidewalks in Bear Lake, but
That's true.
then it's really easy to find stuff.
Bring like the trailers out, I don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, thanks, Charles, for your willingness. And
You bet.
Madam Chair, that's all I have. for
Okay,
the
great. Well,
Information to the board.
Thank you so much, Candace, and the team, Director Hassan-Eater and the team for all really great information. I just have one item to make sure the board knows about. It's not a big deal, but we had one, public comment is open until noon, but we did have one public comment that we know have come in related to director's report, and it was just a question around water budget, or a suggestion around water budget. So I would just ask maybe that we read that public comment onto the record during the director's report. Does that sound okay, Candace? And
Yes,
then- okay.
yeah, that's a great reminder. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. Any questions or comments of the board? All right, so now we get to where I got ahead of myself on. Oh, yeah.
One question would be, Mark has been vice chair. Are we going to need to address that?
Yeah, Candace, how would we handle that? I think we will. Wayne, I hope it wasn't me that caused you to realize, your trade-offs with your time. Completely understand, though. We know. I mean, it's good to own your time, so we'll very much miss you, but completely understand.
My thought process is, by the time I get through another term, I'd be 80 years old, and so I think I'd like to do something a little different, too.
Yeah, we understand it. As long as you keep in touch, it's okay. So we probably will need to, and we do that by election. Is that right? Okay.
Yes, we do that by
Okay.
election. So if that's something the board wants to take care of in this board meeting, maybe you guys can chat about it over lunch. I don't want to put anyone on the spot to be vice chair, but just want to. Or you can discuss it here. You're welcome to do that too, whichever you prefer.
What do you think, you all? Oh, okay, that's, okay. Well, why don't we, why don't we take it up next meeting, and we can kind of chat, maybe. Okay. Sounds good. Good
Sounds
point,
good.
though. Okay. All right. Any other items? All right, so I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn in just a minute, but just as a reminder, we'll have lunch, and we'll reconvene at 1 o'clock for the full board meeting. So with that, I think we do need a formal motion to adjourn.
Get your last motion.
Well, there's another meeting later. I might get the last motion there. I move we adjourn.
All right, I think we do need a second.
I'll second it.
All right. Okay, we'll go ahead and just declare this meeting adjourned and see everyone at 1 o'clock. Sounds good.